Alright guys, I'm going to compare whether it's better to bead blast some of your steel parts or it's better to use a product like Evapo-Rust, which will dissolve the rust and chemically convert it back to good metal. Then I have a whole bunch of parts here that I'm either going to bead blast in my cabinet or I'm going to use the Evapo-Rust on, which I've used this before. This works really well, so I'm going to compare, see which I like better, because the headlight buckets here, the paint's pretty decent in some areas, and then as you can see they're pretty rusty in others, so I'm interested to see what the Evapo-Rust will do to that, or if it's just better to blast them. So we've got the back of our headlight buckets. Take the bulbs out, polish these stainless. I have a couple throttle arms. Go to the pedal, a couple hood pins, hood support, conduits for the power windows. I'll probably just soak these because they're rusty inside, so that'll probably be the best route for that, but we'll give us a try and I'll keep you updated. Should be enough. We'll check them out tomorrow, see what they look like. Alright guys, so it's been a day. I've left a couple steel parts sit in this rust bath for about 24 hours. And this is a hood support that I bead blasted, which I was relatively happy with the finish. It's a little blotchy, which is what happens with bead blasting, and it still has some of the zinc or the cadmium plating on it, which you can see in a couple spots right here. So just in 24 hours, you can see the spring is just painted now, and I need to scuff it, and it's ready to go again. These lower retainers came out really nice. They have a nice, pretty uniform finish to them, so I'm happy with the way those came out. So you can see here's our conduit for our power windows that goes on the door, and I left the piece of tape on there to see if it would take the ink off of it. And it looks like it's all pretty well intact. It started to swell a little bit onto the tape around it. But this came out nice. This can just be scuffed and repainted. It's good to go. So in less than 24 hours, all this stuff's pretty well back the way it should be. There wasn't much rust on these parts. As you can see, this stuff really didn't change colors too much. Yeah, these are nice. So I'm happy with the way these came out. I think I can just scuff them a little bit and clear them, and they should be good to go. So my main point of comparison here between the Evapo-Rust and the bead blaster is not which one works better. I know they both work well. It was more to see which works better in this situation. In this situation, I care about the coating that's on my parts. So these are zinc coated, and so was this hood support and the emergency brake rod. This rod was interesting because this came out of a car that burnt to the ground, so the whole thing was rusty. I bead blasted it, and you can see, well, it shows up in the camera, but you can see the coating here, but it's bare metal here, and it's blotchy. There's black spots in it. It just doesn't come out all that nice. And this is an pretty aggressive media I have in the bead blaster right now, and it came out blotchy. The same with this. This wasn't in a fire, but it's still a little blotchy, and you can see where the coating still is, where it was still good, where it didn't start to oxidize. That's bead blasting. Everything over here I soaked in the solution for 24 hours. Now some of this is going to have wear just because these springs ride in here and they move around in here, so some of that coating wore off on the backside, but you can see the spot that was against the fiberglass of the hood, it's still perfect. And these hood pins, other than their wear points from where it went in and out of the hood latch, it's in good shape. It took all the rust off of all the threads, which is a nice thing. And for the springs, there wasn't much rust on them, but it cleaned them up, and these conduits it cleaned up nicely. But just a point, now that I have these cleaned up, I would need to go back and scuff these with something, and depending on how labor intensive that is, it might just be easier to bead blast these and paint them rather than try and scuff them and try to get everything to blend together nicely. So something like this, it might be just easier to bead blast. Although it's nice just to be able to throw it in a can of this and let it soak for 24 hours and come back while you're working in sandblasting something like this, then you bring them all together and paint them. And it's also nice for doing stuff like tubes, because it was rusty inside and there's no way I can bead blast everywhere inside of here. I could get a little bit around here and a little bit in here, but there's no way all that's going to come out. And again, it might be annoying to go back and sand this, where if I just bead blast it, it'll come out really nice quickly and I can just prime it and paint it. So it might be good to use the two in conjunction together, because then you make sure you get it nice and rust free, because I can spray a little bit of paint and primer in there. I can squeeze it through there, assuming that there isn't any in there right now, which is hard to tell. It's hard to tell if there is paint in there or not. But that's just my little summary of it. It depends on what you're going for. Evapo-Rust, as you can see, did not hurt the ink, did not hurt the paint, the black paint that was on here, or the red overspray. Didn't hurt the zinc, didn't hurt the black paint on the springs. So if you care about the coating on it, I would recommend using Evapo-Rust. It was like 25 bucks, I think, for a jug of it, and I can still reuse it whenever the stuff turns black. It's pretty much all used up, and the warmer it is, the quicker it works. So I recommend using that, whereas this is more labor intensive, but it was nice because I can work on this and this stuff at the same time, bring it all together and finish it off. I also wanted to point out that I did not take time to clean all of these parts. I don't even think I wiped these off. I just threw them in the tank. I wiped a little bit of the grease off, but I didn't take the time to get the grease out of these areas, all of these crevices in here. I just threw them in the bath. And the grease did come off. It was like a film on there that I could just wipe off. It wasn't stuck to it like it was before. So it didn't like dissolve off, but it was easy to wipe off. It softened it up. Versus with bead blasting, you have to stay on a spot of grease for a while if it's there, and then maybe it'll blow off, at least with the pressure that I'm running at. But with bead blasting, it's a lot more about the prep, and you have to keep it prepped. That way you can reuse your material and you don't clog up your gun, and you don't have to throw away your media and get new media. With this, I just threw it in the tank, let it do its thing, and took it out, wiped it off, and it was good to go. Now, it may affect the life of your Evapo-Rust. I'm not sure about that, but it worked through it. You can't tell where there was grease or where there wasn't grease. It didn't leave a spot behind. It got underneath it and it did its work. So that's another benefit of using Evapo-Rust. Guys, that's going to do it for this part of the video. Be sure to like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel to see some more Corvette content. We're going to be having a split window in the garage right where my G6 sits, so the G6 is going to have to be thrown out. She's not going to be happy, but we're going to get a split window here in its place, so be sure to check that out if you want to see the restoration. I'll have some good tips along the way, try out some more products, and see what you guys think. So remember, you're never too old and you're never too young to start a project, so go out there and get your hands dirty. I'll see you later, guys.